Hey, everybody. Hope everyone is all right. Checking out if everything is okay. And yes, we are live. So everything looks all right here. I guess we're going to just do this. Some channel 6, 27025 kilohertz. Super Bowl channel activity.
He could get 2 keys out of 30. Hey, Vice Grip, he could get 2 keys out of 30. That's as long as 100 dBs last. Hey, Vice Grip, 100 dBs only last 2 keys out of 30. Vice Grip, I'm getting on down.
Getting it all down with 2 keys and 100 dBs. I like CB lingo and the way that they talk. It's just so funny. So that's Sportic E happening right now. Let's I'm just curious. Let's check 10 meters. Let's check 10 meters. Anything on 10 meters happening? Don't see a lot there. CB's here open, of course. So welcome everybody to the live show tonight. Nice to have you on board. Yeah, that one did sound high fidelity, absolutely. Well, I guess there's some professional Super Bowl channel guys that sound just amazing. That's for sure. So welcome aboard, everybody. This is the Wednesday edition of the Shortwave show. We are live twice a week, once on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. But don't be fooled, because for a big part of the world, it's actually Thursday. And we are also live on Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern. That's 20 hours UTC, where it's still Sunday for some people, but it's mostly Saturday for a lot of guys. Nice to have all of you here. And of course, official drink of the Shortwave channel, vodka and cranberry juice. We of course have some newbie questions that I think are interesting, and maybe sometimes we have to go back to the basics. What's a radio? Or almost. It's kind of interesting, but some interesting questions in there, and I hope that we'll go through these questions today. And of course, this is a show about radio, about shortwave radio, but any kind of radio, basically. And we have a lot of fun with that. And we, of course, are live from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. My name is Gilles, northeast part of North America. That name is French. It's a French name because I am a French Canadian. A lot of people are like, well, you sound like Russian. You sound like, the people that just listen to my voice and like, well, that accent sounds like East European, or it's like, no, okay. It sounds like a French Canadian trying to speak English. Okay. That's all. Nothing fancy. Nothing fancy. On the Windows channel, it's just so funny. It was somebody posted like, well, you sound like you're, you sound like a European country. And this woman that just posted a comment below it and said, he's French and it's so sexy the way he talks. It's like, okay, that's an interesting comment on the Windows channel. So anyways, nice to have all of you here. And as usual, it's always cool to be here. There's a beautiful chat room with wonderful people that are here to just have fun. I mean, if there's a definition of fun, respect, and just a cool moment together with radio, I think it's here. Um, I've been to so many groups, Facebook groups, not just Facebook groups, all sorts of groups, where it's like everybody just, talking, and what you end up with is um, some, after a certain time, you're like, well, there's like lack of respect, lack of fun. It's as if, well, I know it all, and that's it. And it's like, no, that's not what it's all about. If you think you know it all, okay, well, explain it in a good way. Explain it in a way that we all want to learn, not into oh, well, you're an idiot because you think that is like this and that, and so it's like only stupid people think that. It's like when I see comments that belittle anyone, how can somebody enjoy the hobby and want to be in it when one of the first comments is, you know, you feel like you're an idiot, you feel like your comment is stupid. That I never get. And sometimes I think people like that are people that just themselves, all of their lives, have had a hard time. And now they have a knowledge, but instead of helping with that knowledge, they belittle others with the fact that I know more than you. And it's like, come on, guys, that's not the way it is. Okay. Education is not, imagine you go in school and you're in high school or whatever, and they would belittle you because you don't know how to do math or science or whatever. Would you go in school with that? No, you'd probably leave school and it's like, wow, okay, I'm an idiot, and school taught me I'm an idiot. That's not the way it is. When you have knowledge, the least you can do is be cool about it, help others learn about it in a way that they feel good, that whatever question comes to you, they are not feeling that, you are laughing at them or whatever. And unfortunately, there's too many people out there that are in that category, unable to explain something without, I don't know. They have to, like, I'm the king of knowledge of whatever, and you're a little idiot. And what stupid questions are you actually asking? I can't stand that. And I can't stand people like that. And I'm tired of people like that, actually. And I think we're all tired of that. And, there's some great hams out there. There's some great shortwave listeners out there. But come on, okay? A little respect, please, is the minimum. The minimum. And I think that's how we can enjoy a hobby. That's why there's a lot of people here, because we actually answer questions and are serious about answering questions and are serious about helping everybody. And all of that with, I think, a level of respect that is truly amazing. I was scared to do the Facebook group for a while. I didn't want to, because I looked at all the Facebook groups and I would see what people post and how people dealt and how people would be together. And one of the biggest problems is, there's always somebody somewhere that just wants to tell somebody else that you're an idiot or whatever. And dealing with that, because, as a YouTuber, I already deal with it. And I'm fine with it. I mean, over all the years of being YouTube now, it's like, I wake up in the morning and I know that my first cup of coffee will be accompanied with, I'm an idiot, I'm a loser, and I should go F myself. And that's it. And it's truly what the YouTube is. Anybody that has a YouTube channel that has viewers, you end up with all of these idiots, and every day you got to deal with, with trolling, with people trying to make you feel like an idiot and that you shouldn't have a channel. I get this all the time here. It's even worse on the Windows channel. Imagine. So, you get to a point where you don't 100% get accustomed to it, because there's always somebody somewhere that will post the perfect comment that gets you right here. So from time to time, you'll have that comment that is like, yeah, okay, you made me feel bad this morning with that comment. But and it's human nature. I mean, we don't want to be belittled. We don't want to be dealt with like we're a piece of crap. But people are beyond the screen. They're not in your face, because they would never tell you that in your face. Honestly, all the trolls that send me these comments, I know they wouldn't even dare do it in my face. But hey, they're behind the screen. They're really big man, because I mean they can do it behind a screen in their basement, because they're losers and they're probably don't have any friends and have only time to do something like that. It's just funny. But here, that's not the case. Here, it's the place where we are respecting each other and having fun. And you know what? We more than 1,800 members on the Facebook group. And I mean, the level of respect there is great. And we got to continue like that. That's also why we have a lot of moderators. Who are the people with the blue wrench? All the people that can actually kick your butt out of this place if you just aren't okay with whatever happens. And that's why. The more we have of those, the better this place is going to be, actually. Same thing for Facebook. There's a lot of moderators. And I want to thank, by the way, not just the moderators. I want to thank the moderators here. First of all, you guys do a great job at, kicking out anybody that just doesn't do it right and is out of, the rules and shouldn't be here. And that is cool. And I want to thank you guys. I want to thank the Facebook moderators that take some of that burden off of my shoulders, because I have a lot of things to do. I can't always monitor, 24 hours a day, the Facebook group. And you guys are there for that. And you do a great job. And you know what? Go with your gut feelings all the time. I think that's the best way to do it. Being a moderator, sometimes you might not want to block somebody or remove somebody or do something. And it's, what? Go with your gut feeling. What's your gut feeling with a certain person, with the way the posts are done, with the way things are going? Of course, there's always a level of being a little relaxed. Some people, a lot of people that join the group here. And I sometimes am thinking people in tech, people in radio. We have this. Wait a second, Mr. Paul the cat is at the door, but he wants to go out. So, like I said, I think we have a high level of people in technology, in radio listening, that we have this this way of being that probably puts us in a separate category. And I was talking with Sheldon Harvey, and we talk about our little mental abilities of different things. Like you guys always say, it's like, wow, the frequencies by heart in your brain. And it's like, yeah, I think that's, sometimes we talk about the autism and a scale of autism and where we are. And I look at myself and the way I was when I was younger and today what I am. But the things that I focus on and the things that, and I think a lot of radio listeners and a lot of tech, intense tech people, we have a little something in our brain that is kind of a disorder, but we use it to make things the maximum that they can in our own little world. And I think all of us have a slight, depending on who we are, some have more, some have less of that, and I think it is part of, who would want to listen to a radio station in static from another country and focus and say, wow, this is so cool. You have a little something here, it's we look at it and maybe that's why we have a hard time understanding somebody that looks at us and says, well, you're listening to that static again. It's like, no, this is Australia. This is so cool, but this is the best place to be. And I think moderators have a great role in here. And I want to thank all of you for doing a great job, honestly. Coming in here and doing my live show, not having to think that some idiot's going to show up, post stupid comments, and have to deal with it. I don't even have to deal with it. By the time I get in the chat room, all of you have already dealt with all of that. So, it's kind of cool. And same for the Facebook group. People report stuff. People deal with stuff. It's really, really cool. And I want to thank all of you. So, hey, we're Wednesday. And beautiful day today. Kind of cool, but way too many things to do. I've been dabbling with a lot of little stuff happening. The Windows channel has been pretty busy because of the leak of Windows 11 that is actually running right here. The SDR is running here on what is going to be Windows 11 eventually in the future. So, lots of stuff happening. I'm glad to be here. And let me take a little sip of my drink here. So welcome, everyone, and hope that you enjoy. Facebook group is official SWL channel, and don't be afraid to join. If you are brand new to Facebook, and that's very, very, very important, because some people decided to join Facebook just for the fact that they want to be in this group. And of course, if you show up as I don't know who you are, and it says, oh, Facebook created 6 hours ago or 1 week ago or a month ago, you're not getting in, because trolls will do that. So we need an advance notice. We need you to, send me a little message, official shortwave radio at gmail.com or whatever, and say, look, this is my new Facebook page. This is who I am in the chat. This is who I am. I'm going to join your group. And so I'm brand new on Facebook just because of that. So please accept me, or else we won't do it, because too many people are actually trolling. So, and the first thing in trolling is you create an account just to, have access so you can troll. So that's why we don't accept anybody that has a brand new Facebook account. So just, try to let us know in a way so we can actually know who you are and then accept you if you're brand new. So, chat room, David, KJ4CMY, nice to have you on board, my friend. Mark Cope from Dallas, Texas, WA5153SWL, good evening. Matt from a hot Denver, nice to have you on board from Denver, Colorado, MDK2. Here it's pretty cool. Today we had about 72, 73. Same for tomorrow. It's like, this is perfect weather for me. I actually like what's happening out there right now. I hate it when it's really hot. Rob, nice to have you on board from Phoenix, Arizona, 113 Fahrenheit. Youch, too hot for me. Bobby Burgess, nice to have you here. WA5107SWL in Morgan City, Louisiana, USA. Art JDA Dakota, nice to have you on board. WA0113SWL from Missouri. And we have Tom DXer, WPE2QED from Hudson Valley, New York. We have Frank Ireland from Venice, Florida. Salut Christian Marcoux, j'espère que ça va bien. Nice to have you on board from North Bay, Ontario. Hi, brother. Nice to have you here from Arkansas. Kevin, nice to have you here from Point Beach, New Jersey. And I've been thinking of, and when things start to get better, I've not been in the East Coast of the United States. Actually, not been in the United States since let me think about it for a second. 1999. I think it's 1999 last time, or 1998. When was that? Can you guys wait? No, that was another trip. So, okay, yeah, 1998 was the last time I put my feet in the United States of America. When we could just go without a passport, without, trouble. We just go to the border, decide, I told the story so many times. I'd wake up in the sunny morning. My brother would call me and was like, how about we go to Plattsburgh, New York? Okay, fine. And we just go. And that was the good times, You just wake up and it's like, oh, let's go to the US today. And we'll come back later today. And so 1998 was when I went down to, so we went to Algonquin, Maine. We went to, trying to find different places. We went down to, we went to New Jersey. We went to the Carolinas. We went down, we went down to Florida that time, which was the biggest trip I've ever done in the United States of America. And came back up, and I got to say, I was hooked. I was totally hooked. And it was like, pretty cool. And then I've not been back to the U.S. since. Well, things became complicated with 9/11 and all of that, and I've stayed away, and hopefully, could be fun to go back and see more of the United States, which everywhere I went to the U.S., which I found it cool, I found it fun. One city I've never been to, and I know it's like you got to go there at least once in your life. New York City, because when we went to the U.S., we all went through the East Coast, but we didn't go do any big cities. We went to different. We went to Provincetown. We went to. I'm trying to. All the way down to Daytona Beach, Florida, and which reminds me when my sister went there. My sister that died from cancer. She went there, Daytona Beach, in 2005-ish. And I remember we were watching webcams live, and she actually sent me a message and said, hey, there's a webcam at Daytona Beach, and I spotted where it is. I want you to watch today at 2 p.m. I'm going to be in front of it waving, saying hi from Daytona Beach. And that was so much fun. So anyways, I have to go back down to the U.S. For sure. I haven't been there since 1998. It'd be fun to go back. David Martinez from San Antonio, Texas. Nice to have you here. Can you get the start menu to come up on your computer? Yeah, it is. Look at that. Okay, I'm gonna actually just temporarily do a little something, guys. Here's that's Windows 11, by the way. And here, Bobby, for you, this is the start menu of Windows 11. So mine is fine with the taskbar at the bottom middle rather than the usual left. So that was the Windows lesson for today. Jerry DX, nice to have you here. Nice to have you on board. Matt, MDK2, saying that most of the Super Bowl channel stations are so noisy and that one sounds surprising. Absolutely. KJ, yeah, I'm not going to say it, but yeah. Hey, your assistant, check 10 meters. Dave, nice to have you on board from Indiana. That'd be great. That should be built in, these assistants. Um, hey, whatever, go to a Kiwi SDR in Germany and tune, whatever frequency. Tune 6649, upper sideband. And they just do it. That'd be great. Richard Califano, nice to have you on board from Albany, New York. My new Radio Shack is up and running, dedicated to late cousin John Musco, who got me into shortwave listening in 1968. Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, if you have problems, maybe a clean install, Bobby Burgess, would be better. But I don't know. Look at your resolution and your drivers, for sure. Flavio Franco, nice to have you here. Which is better, Degen 1103 PLL or XH Data? Both are great. XH Data has airband. When you add stuff, it has separate upper lower sideband, which makes tuning sideband a little better. But it has muting when you tune with the knob, with the tuning knob. If that is an annoyance, the 1103 PLL doesn't do that. So it could be a better radio for you for that reason. Stuart Underwood, nice to have you on board from Ohio. William Helms from Florida, nice to have you here. Thomas Bibish, nice to have you here from Ohio. Vodka and milk, I don't know. Has anybody tried that? Vodka and milk? I'm not sure. Of course, if somebody would try it, I would probably taste it to see, but I'm not sure. Joe, nice to have you here from Newmarket, Virginia. John Beckham, nice to have you here from Florida. Flavio Franco is in Brazil. KJ is from New York City. Gang of Four from New Hampshire. Paul, nice to have you here from St. John, Michigan. Jet Crafter, nice to have you here from Southern Maine. Nice to have you back. Dave, question, ground or not to ground my antenna? Depends on the antenna you're talking about. And it depends on your situation. Because yes, depending on what type of antenna and the way that you bring it into your home, grounding might be a good idea. It might lower noise in some circumstances. It's not much for protection. People that ground because they say, "Oh, it's going to protect me from." It doesn't protect you from anything. It mostly will lower noise and stuff like that. But people that say, "Hey, I grounded myself, so I don't get zapped by thunderstorms," no, useless. That's not what it does. And there are antennas that you do not ground. Some radios have a ground, a little ground like screw or plug where you can ground the radio itself. But honestly, ground is very, very complex. If the ground is very far, so if you have to put a very long wire to ground yourself, it isn't a ground anymore, so it's useless to do so. And grounding to a water pipe is not a ground. It's never a ground. It is not a good idea. And ground in itself is a very complex thing. I can tell you that. So for some, it will lower noise, but for a lot of people, it doesn't do anything. And, when you want to protect yourself, for the rest, if you want to protect yourself from lightning, from stuff like that, it's not a ground that you need. It's like unplug your antennas. We don't use them. And make sure that when thunderstorms arrive, just unplug everything. John Beckham says, lots of single sideband on 20-meter band. Flavio enjoys my channel since 2011. Brian Penny, nice to have you here from Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Gang of Four, only my second time here. First time was last Saturday. Glad I found your channel. Glad you're here. It's fun to have people that enjoy and have fun with radios. I can tell you that. What else do we have? Yep, absolutely, Dave. Belittling others betrays internal insecurities. Absolutely. Might have to do with what happened in your life when you were younger. Daz R. Is the Texan PL 990X a good radio to have? Absolutely. It's an amazing radio. Joe, crack on people here, and the guys with the branches beside their name will lay the shape of Italy on you. And you know what, Joe? You've been here for a long time. How about having a wrench? How about that? Let's add a few people to the moderator chain. So, Joe, you're here, moderator. Happy to be here. Nice to have you here. Can anybody recommend, says James Johnson, which direction to point the MLA30 antenna? For shortwave, where the least amount of noise happens. So take a radio, put your MLA30, look at the noise floor on a channel when there's nothing on, and look at where that noise is the lowest. That's how you position the antenna. John Beckham, shortwave reception seems to be improving due to an improving sunspot cycle, possibly. Not that much. You know what? I often say it, although in higher frequencies, like 10 meters, yeah, absolutely. Sunspot cycle plays a big role, even in 15 meters, 21 megahertz. For a big chunk of shortwave, you know what? Conditions are not that improved with a higher solar cycle. A lot of it has to do with simply listening to the good, like what time of day you're listening and so on. And I think a lot of the problems today are really much more relevant to the amount of noise you have around you than whatever solar cycle is doing, honestly. Anish Manar Rakinson, nice to have you on board. What else do we have? Log 2112, nice to have you on board. What else do we have? David KJ4CMO. I could never flame anyone. It's not my nature. Yeah, some people are, though. I can tell you that. Every day I get those messages. James Farley, nice to have you here from Old Bridge, New Jersey. Log 2112 is from Nassau Bay, Texas. Dave, thankfully this channel is free from the toxicity that pages plagues other channels. Maybe our mods are awesome. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Jerry, push the delete button, Joel. What is the Windows channel? Look, I'm going to promote it here temporarily. So here's the Windows channel for those who want to see what it is. I've actually rebranded the channel today to Windows, Computers, and Technology, because with all the changing stuff, I thought that having a number in front of Windows was not relevant anymore. So here we go. That's the Tech Windows channel. What else do we have? Skip, nice to have you on board. N2EI. John Beckham, if you want a very sensitive and selective shortwave radio with SSB and RDS and FM, he recommends the Radio Wow's newest brand, the Ceodon D108, which is, by the way, a slightly modified but still XH Data D808, which is an amazing radio. Price versus performance, really good. Log, I've been gone 2 weeks. What the hell happened? What happened? Nothing special happened. Joe Tyson, nice to have you here from Apex, North Carolina. KM4WRQ. Just want to check something here. There we go. Okay. What else do we have? When Paul meows and Jill obeys. Absolutely. He's the master of the house. Yeah, in general, yeah, like John Beckham says, most Texan receivers are pretty good in general. Absolutely. Modsy shot. Yeah, I know, Jerry. But I have now my after doing YouTube for such a long time, you get a you kind of look at comments and they're like, yeah, right. But Lock 2112, what kind of music is CKUT? Well, CKUT first has and airs the best show that exists in the whole wild world, which is the International Radio Report with Sheldon Harvey and me, and every Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m., 14:30 UTC, and you can stream it on ckut.ca. You can join, for those that don't know, by the way, you can join our Facebook group. Yes, Facebook has the International Radio Report group, but you can also join our fantastic International Radio Report YouTube channel, where we have the show about an hour after it airs live on CKUT 90.3 FM here in Montreal. So here goes. Hey, let's promote stuff. It's a college university station, so there's so much stuff there, from the weirdest kind of music you can imagine to shows about the environment, about politics, about feeling good, being well. It has really an eclectic and very, very unique mix. Stuff that you don't hear on the conventional radio stations, I can tell you that. And plus, the best radio show in the world. I'm not kidding, guys. It is the best. So check it out. You can stream it on any app, CKUT 90.3 FM, and listen in. There's some weird stuff there. I can tell you, from time to time, I kind of tune in, and I'm like, wow, this is bizarre. And there's some really interesting stuff also. It depends on the time and what show you're actually tuning in. Broad skilling. Agree with you. Maybe the radio listening hobby is for introverts, not shy folks. It's just that independent stuff like radio listening gives us energy. Yeah, probably. I think, it's at maybe that's why we like radio. We have that little side where, we're happy. You know, there was a great couple of weeks ago, because with the confinement slowly, going away, and here life is starting to get back to normal. Bars are open. Things are looking good. There was an article that said not everybody's happy that confinement is ending, and they were having a bunch of people that actually were happy when everything was just like shut down, because that they felt good like that. They felt good working from home, being alone. And, I take that and I'm like, yeah, it's like, shortwave listeners, we're at home in our little bubble, listening to a signal from somewhere around the world. We're happy. And I can bet you that, even though parts of what happened in the last year and a half, 2 years is rough in certain areas, being alone with your radio, listening to some signals from on shortwave and on radio in general, I think a lot of us probably didn't feel that bad about, we felt bad about what's happening, but we didn't feel necessarily that, it wasn't that big of a deal for a lot of us. Maybe just, listening to the radio and being happy alone with our radio, honestly. And honestly, why should it be a problem anyway? You're happy with your radio alone. Why should it be a problem? By the way, just before I continue, I am going to look at my email because I want to check out if anybody has checked in here. on an email. So we do have emails. So we have Elizabeth saying hello and that she's enjoying the show. And she wants to thank me because she had an idea last week. So we talked about her Kenwood R5000 that had the DOTS problem. She actually found a radio TV repair guy in her area that was recommended by a friend of hers. And he said, yeah, I'm going to take a look at it. And apparently, our Kenwood is being repaired as we speak. And it's going to come back soon to normal. She says, right now, all I have is a portable Sony receiver. And she says, I can't wait to have my Kenwood back. And I want to thank you for talking about it. And I want to thank you all for being great fans and great people all around the world. I feel welcome here, and that is fantastic. So you guys, you're part of why she is happy to be here. We have Richard Lemke. Nice to have you here. Good evening. What's the difference between the three radios that these three radios? The Texan PL330, the Texan PL660, and the Texan PL880. Besides, they have their own character. So, and he says, have a great show. Richard sent from his iPad. Cool, Richard. So to answer that question, Texan PL330, 660, and 880, of course, they have a different feel and look. The 330 is the smallest of them. The 660 is a little bigger. 880 is even bigger. They each have their own look, their own feel. 330, if I had to quickly point a difference between those radios, the 330 is an amazing radio for the price with very precise tuning, but it's a DSP-based radio, so when you tune with the tuning knob, it mutes or chuffs or whatever we want to call it. So that's one thing. But overall, for the price and its very small size, which is great if you travel, amazing radio. The 660 is a great overall PLL, standard PLL receiver with, the standard tuning around and no chuffing, no muting. It's kind of a standard, I would call it a standard shortwave radio that just is pretty good, works great for what it is, and is not, it's just performs well. And it's been on the 660, 600, 680. They've been available for a long time now. The 880 put it as a higher end receiver with much more interesting sound quality. So it has amazing sound to it. It is and feels better quality. The knobs are made of metal. There's a lot of little things that make it a pretty good package. But you put your money in precise tuning, but overall better quality in feel and audio quality also at the same time. So that's pretty much what I would, in a quick way, talk about the different characteristics of these three radios. And of course, now we have the 990X and the H501X, which are also added to the radio, basically. Okay. So what else do we have? Aerial imaging. Nice to have you here. Jerry, been nonstop and forgot to post a video. I try to post and keep people happy every day. That's all you have to do, man. That's all you have to do. Rufus Newt, nice to have you here from Laurentian Valley, Ontario. And that's all right, Lock2112. You don't have to join Facebook to be there or whatever. I'm on social media because when you start doing stuff like I do, you start getting on social media because, it's a way to also kind of promote a little bit yourself and what you're doing. But, you don't have to be on Facebook. Honestly, honestly, I was on Facebook because the only reason I'm on Facebook, first of all, was because after many years of Facebook, everybody's like, well, you're not on Facebook. Yeah, but you're a tech guy. Yeah. Why do I have to be on Facebook? And then you end up like, well, okay, I can talk with my family and friends, and you give in because it's like, yeah, that's the way I'm keeping contact with the people I like, because there's no other way except calling them by phone, and I'm not a phone guy, so I was like, yeah, okay, let's do it. Let's do that Facebook thing. Joe Rodman, nice to have you here from Chicago. Perfect 75. Yeah, that is perfect. Absolutely. Stuart Underwood, W8STU from Northeast Ohio. Oh, yeah. Trolls are losers. Absolutely. We don't need them. Rob can fry eggs on the street. Hector Vaz, you should do YouTube videos of cooking food on the sidewalk. I bet you that channel would get tons of hits. Cooking food on the sidewalk in Phoenix, Arizona. Hector Vasquez, nice to have you here from Los Angeles, California. KW1161, greetings from a hot and partly cloudy Tucson, Arizona. What else do we have? We have like 2112. So hot. I saw two guys standing in the field burst into flames. Ouch. That's hot. Oh man. Yeah, it's a leak. What you see there is a leak from a Chinese website. And as a true, tech enthusiast and Windows fan, I had to install it, and I installed it on this thing here. And that's going to be announced next week. I know it's on a Microsoft event on June 24th. Tristan, nice to have you here from Newfoundland, Canada. Time to relax and listen to some radio talk. Yes. Misery Adventures. Recently got into Shortwave. Remember as a kid, my dad listening to Shortwave. Thanks for all your help on YouTube. Thank you very much. A White Russian is vodka and milk. Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know White Russian. I know there's a Black Russian, but I didn't know there was a White Russian. Vodka and milk? Really? Huh. Okay. It's really milk? I have a hard time thinking of vodka and milk. But you know what? I'm going to try it. Just out of curiosity, I'll do it like a shot or something, just to see. Maybe it isn't that bad. But a White Russian, I didn't know about that. I knew a Black Russian, but not a White Russian. That sounds like a story. I knew a Black Russian, but I never knew about a White Russian. It almost sounds like the start of a story. Dwayne, nice to have you on board from Paris. Alan Endelman Show. How did you ground your outdoor antenna for your CB radio? It's not grounded. It's the way it is. It's just there. There's no need for a ground on a discount. You just put it up. You disconnect when you don't use it, and that's it. Scott Belcher, nice to have you on board from Kentucky. Also known as the Radio Wastelands. Oh, God. I mean, I'm so far away from the ground here that grounding is useless. There's no way of really doing what we call a real ground. So there's nothing I can do here. Jeff King, nice to have you here from Jacksonville, Florida. Listening as you're driving. As long as you're not watching as you're driving, I would be concerned about that. Man. What else do we have? MDK2 just works a Canadian station located in Niagara on the Lake, Ontario, on FT8. Pretty cool. 6 meters. Wow. Gunner 66. Nice to have you here from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. Nice to have other people from Canada also. Find it cool. And it's funny because sometimes I'll hear a ham from like Alberta or British Columbia, Canada, and I'm like, you kind of listen to it and you're like, man, that those guys are like listening to Europe. They're as far away on that side that I am far away from Europe. It's just crazy. It's like listening to hams on the west coast of the U.S. It's like you guys are as far as Europe. It sounds crazy because you're like, well, this is just the U.S. No, this is more than the U.S. It's like, this is Europe, distance U.S. Harry Olden is the 3/8-inch plug for the external antenna jack on the Texan radios, a mono stereotype. Antenna jack soldered to circuit board. Avoid heavy stresses. There are to avoid problems. So I've used both mono and stereo jacks as long as the tip, okay, really the tip of that plug is where the antenna is, it works. So it doesn't matter mono or stereo, as long as the tip is where the antenna is plugged in. For the rest, yes, be very careful. That plug in those portable radios is not meant to carry a weight. And some people have like very heavy cabling that puts a weight on the connector, and then after a couple of weeks or months, well, my connector doesn't work anymore. But you got to have a very flexible cable that just it barely makes a weight on the connector. It's extremely important because these portable radios don't have the sturdy connector to actually have a heavy weight on them. Mind Jam from New Hampshire, nice to have you here. Dave, does anyone have the PL880? I think the build on that looks really solid. Oh, it's a top end radio. It's really an amazing radio. Mad Radio DXer, nice to have you on board. Good morning, or a good late night listening or watching. Nice to have you here. My Jam, does anyone have multiple antennas hooked up to their radios, like long wire, telescoping, and MLA30 all at the same time? Well, actually, we switch between them. We don't actually have them all at the same time. So, No, Windows 11 is not out, but there's a leak of a Windows 11 build. That's a different thing. But it will be out somewhere in the fall officially. And anyways, Windows 10 is, trust in Windows 10 is good until 2025. It's all right. You don't have to move on to anything else. Chris, G7 VEO. I like playing with radio. Cool. Charles Williams, I have a Texan PL880. It's well made. Knobs are smooth. Feels like it's put together well. A few quirks. Every radio has a few quirks, honestly. So, no radio is perfect. Everybody's saying hello to Elizabeth. John Beckham, I'm picking up station on 1741, which I found on Slow Tuning. I think it's a tropical broadcasting station. Is anyone familiar? So 1741 is so in Europe there's some maritime stuff there, but 1741 I'm thinking that you might have some image of some strong station there. Joe Simonis likes pickles, and that's fine. Jim F, nice to have you here. Mike Jam says, nice job, Elizabeth. Rick, nice to have you here from Milwaukee. Bestest Times Reborn, nice to have you here from Australia. Thanks for all you do. To further the hobby, what is your all-time fave radio? That's a hard one. My all-time favorite radio. If you're talking about one that I owned, I probably would choose, of all the radios, it's a hard one. I probably would choose the Kenwood R5000 all the years I had it. Amazing shortwave radio in general. But it's difficult to choose the favorite radio that you own. Honestly, I look at all the radios and the modern radios I got now, and I can't say I have a favorite. I would say I have a favorite depending on what I'm going to do, what I want to listen to. I'll choose one over something else. It's a tough one. I can tell you that. James Farley, if you had a modern portable in 1982, would it overload? That's a darn good question because on the MLE30, so the only overload tests that I've seen, or the overload that I have, is with US stations like WWCR and WTWW that come in so strong. So 49 meter band is the example for me. And a lot of the portables I've had on the MLE30 do have mixing products. So with that example, I think that on long wires or a good antenna in 1982 with all the shortwave stations out there, yeah, that would be a possibility that they would overload. And let's be fair, most radios of that time, except higher end receivers, also had overload problems with long wire antennas at that time. So I think there would be sometimes would be a problem. I mean, just thinking of all the stations there, that would definitely be a problem, possibly. Jim from the beach of Southern Rhode Island. CHU on 3330, booming in tonight. Cool. Madrita DXer says, please say hello to Elizabeth and say I am really happy to hear that her Kenwood is being repaired. Absolutely. And we are all happy of that. It was one of the things, actually, I got a few emails from people saying, look, I really want to help Elizabeth with a radio. And I want to thank, by the way, everybody that emailed me saying, look, here's a suggestion. Here's something maybe she could try or she could do, or because I mean, as time goes by, it's getting harder to find somebody that actually wants to play with these radios and fix them, honestly. TTY bought a Zenith Transoceanic at a PX in Vietnam, 1968. Took it back because I couldn't figure out how to use it. Jumped to last month, bought a used Grundig Traveler 3, fun next to a Grundig 750. Welcome aboard. Where are you located, TTY? Lloyd Armstrong, nice to have you here from Florida on the Gulf of Mexico, lightning capital of the USA. Levy Nathan, nice to have you here from Israel. Dane 961, are there any non-Chinese made shortwave radios? Not sure if it's even a thing and not aiding China, just wondering. Well, there are some higher end radios that cost a fortune that are made in the US, but overall, pretty much everything is made in China today. Aerial Imaging, has anyone here received a Belka DX recently? Brian Penny got a Belka DX recently. If you've got questions. Skip says, White Russian, watch The Big Lebowski. I'm going to have to check that out. Dave, I got into shortwave because when I was small, the Radio Shack was in the same plaza as the grocery store. Went there while mom did the shopping. What's your all story? Avid tea drinker. Nice to have you here. Okay, with Kahlua and milk. That sounds better, actually, than just milk. Merci, Christian Marco. So Black Russian is vodka and Kahlua coffee liquor. A White Russian is vodka and Kahlua and milk. That sounds better, actually. Robert Shine, nice to have you here. N3VXD. I have one story. Dave is asking for our stories of when we went to Radio Shack and stuff. One of them was when my dad was actually making the shack up north, and we're talking 1978 when that started. Roughly, that's when he bought the land there, which was like really cheap. It was 10 cents. I still remember, guys, 10 cents per square foot of land. Imagine my dad had that 100 by 160 for a really cheap price in 78. But there was nobody there. I mean, that was like a lost place in the forest, basically. Anyways, he would go to the hardware store to get wood and nails and tools. And next to the hardware store was a Radio Shack. And I would go to the hardware store, but that hardware store actually was, I don't know, for those in Canada, I don't know if it was across Canada. There was a chain of stores called Pascal. So I don't know how many of you know that chain, but I don't know if it was just Quebec or Canada or whatever. You could go and, for an example, my dad would go and get nails and two by fours, and I would go into the section where I would get my 45 RPM songs of the week. It was like one of those places where they sell like everything. So next to it was a Radio Shack. And you would go there, and sometimes you need answers to questions and stuff. So it took a lot of time, and I was totally uninterested in whatever was happening. So I would tell my dad, I was like, I'm gonna be at a Radio Shack, so just pick me up when you're over. And I would look at all the electronics and stuff and the radios, and oh man, I would drool all over that. It was like crazy. It was like, oh man, so many stuff. And I still remember one day my dad had picked up stuff, and he looks at me and says, "So, what are you looking at?" I was like, "Oh, I'm looking at everything." It's like, okay. And I remember that day he looks at me and says, "Okay, I've got $30. Anything $30 you want to spend on?" And I remember there was this weather radio cube, and it wasn't expensive. It was like $20, I think. And I said, "Well, that looks kind of cool, that little weather cube." And he said, "It's yours." And he purchased it. And I was like, "Wow, this is so cool." I remember going up north, and all I had with me was that weather cube, listening to the weather 24 hours a day while he was building the shack. But I was amazed with these little things, and I was like, wow, this is so cool and so amazing. There's a lot of these stories like that when I was young. Remember going to my dad going to there was oh man, how do you call these? So the city will, for example, take, because somebody didn't pay his taxes and stuff, they're gonna take a house or whatever, or land or whatever, and whatever's on that property they're gonna sell back. I don't know how you call that in English. In French they call it an encom. I don't know. I don't know. I don't remember the English name to that. Anyways, so they would sell, like, you'd just show up there, and there were like tons of people, and they would sell all sorts of crazy, weird stuff. And they would ask for a price, and people would just like raise their hands, saying like, I'll take that, whatever. And I remember we went there in 83-ish. And that's where he got my Panasonic. I had a Panasonic RF. Was it the 2800? It was a big portable radio with an LED display, not the red LEDs. And I remember I got home that evening. I had that radio. And I had these weird bulbs that have, they put a magnet on top, so the filament like just wobbles when you plug it in. It's like I had tons of these little weird gizmos and stuff. Because all this stuff that people didn't want, my dad purchased for me because it was like, oh, this looks so cool. He would look at me and says, "Oh, you want that?" It's like, well, that looks cool. But anyways, there's so many little things like that, that kind of interesting in my teenage years and my young adult years, but mostly teenage and young boy years. Robert Shine in 3VXT. We have James Farley says some slow scan TV on 230. Sorry. Oh yeah, with Bailey's, it must be really good. That's for sure. Skip N2EI says Chinese astronauts scheduled to launch at 0122 UTC. By the way, talking of astronauts, there's a slow scan TV event coming up from June 21st to June 26th. Slow scan television will be sent from the International Space Station on 145-800. You just have to know when it's over your head. It's quite easy to decode the slow scan TV pictures sent out. So from June 21st to June 26th, and on 145-800. I will probably be reposting stuff on the VHF channel, and it'll be the first time I can try my discount with the International Space Station stuff. Aerial imaging. I keep an MLA30 Plus as well as a power InFed connected to mine as dual switchable antenna inputs. Cool. Christian Marcoux, my story. I wanted to do something fun away from the computer and monitor. Since watching Gilles, I'm even more on the computer. Watching is impossible to count videos. Yeah, I mean, when I look at the amount of videos I posted today, I'm like, oh God, really? I did all of that? Avid Tinker says, are you familiar with the Klingelfuss books? They have a book that covers lots of utility frequencies. It's a good book. I actually had the Klingelfuss paper book many times over the last 30 years. This publication has been there for a long time. It's expensive. Now it's more of an electronic format. But the guy really knows a lot of his utility stuff. Sometimes I'm thinking maybe I should purchase one to look at, but it's like, $100. But it is definitely probably one of the resources for utility. Can tell you that. What else do we have? Joe, I've searched the web but have never found an answer. Is gray line DXing from the perspective of the transmitter or receiver? Both. Okay, let's do it's one of the questions, by the way, today for the basics. Okay, I'm gonna bring up a browser. Bring up date and time live map. So we're gonna do this here. Okay, here we go. So here's a map of where it's dark and where it's day right now. Okay? Gray line is the area where there's the transition between day and night. Gray line refers to you as a receiver and the station transmitting be in that gray line. Now, don't look at the maps like this that are 2D flat maps, because that looks weird when you look at it and you're like, how can it follow that curve? That curve is actually going over the pole, or it's weird to look at this and think that gray line works. It's because we would have to see it on a globe to have it in 3D. So for gray line to work, that means you need to be, for example, in a sunset, and the station you're listening to in a sunrise, or the other way around. You are at sunrise, station on the other end is at sunset. You're both in that gray line area. Both stations need to be in gray line for that to work. It's very important. Robert Shine, do you ever use a large tube shortwave HF receiver? When I was young, when I was a teenager, I had a World War II Canadian Army transceiver with the transceiver disabled. It was just a receiver for maybe a year before it almost blew up into flames. It was an amazing big radio in Iraq, and I am so sad that today I don't have that thing, because I'm sure somebody would have been able to repair that and have it working again. It was an amazing thing with single sideband. I still remember. William Helms, yeah, why the wax corrosion from the Kenwood. That's crazy, William. DTY, Virginia, cool. Doing my due diligence. I think I've listened to most of your videos. Thanks for all your help. Your voice sounds like another Canadian who has a audiophile channel, probably you want to say. Yeah, I've got the voice of a radio guy. John Beckham, the Weather Cube radio was a very hot item in the Radio Shack. Oh, yeah, absolutely. KW1161's got a national Panasonic 2800. Cool. Log 2112 pop quiz. Who was Howard Kane? Most memorable acting role? His ages. Oh, man. Chaz Stank, nice to have you on board from Louisville, Kentucky. Lloyd Armstrong, question. Should my shortwave antennas be grounded with lots of lightning like now, or am I safe to just unplug the antenna? You just unplugged. Remember that grounding, and that's very important to understand. Grounding doesn't protect you from lightning at all. At all. It's not a protection. Lightning, if it ever hits your antenna, whatever you're grounded or not, it's going to be a fireworks display at your home. Now, that said, lightning hitting your antennas is extremely unlikely. In general, it's going to hit way other things than that. The thing you want to do with your antennas is to unplug them when you are not using them for a long time. It's to unplug them when there's thunderstorms coming, because the dangers are not even at the lightning level hitting your antenna. The dangers are even from a close-by lightning strike. The close-by lightning strike is enough to induce a strong enough Sounds Russian. Strong enough. A strong enough geomagnetic field, magnetic field, that it's actually going to create some currents in your antenna and blow the transistors at the antenna's receiver, and it's going to be deaf. It doesn't need to have a direct hit. Just being close is enough, because the magnetic fields will create currents. Just unplug. For the rest, anybody thinking that I grounded my stuff so lightning will never be a problem, if it hits your antenna, I don't care if you're grounded or not. I tell you, it's fireworks night. And that doesn't really happen much. It could happen in very unique ways. Yes, there are some hams that will have the story of they got a direct hit, but in general, unless you got a 100-foot tower with tons of antenna on top and nothing else around, it doesn't happen very often. Kevin K, click that thumbs up button. It helps. The Export, nice to have you on board. Hello from WLW territory in Cincinnati. WLW, has a really interesting history and likely the highest broadcast wide level in North America history back in the 1930s. There was I don't remember where, but I do remember, I think it was in Spectrum Monitor. They had a really nice history of WLW a year and a half ago in their magazine. It was kind of nice. Lloyd Armstrong, it's not beer, it's vodka and cranberry juice. That's why it looks delicious. It is, actually. Darren Rogers, nice to have you here from Long Island, New York. Prakash, nice to have you on board from Central New Jersey. What else we have? Joe Simonis says, heard space station and a handheld scanner on 144 megahertz a couple of times. Yeah, around 145. Yeah, bottom part 145 megahertz, actually. 6925 Pirate, apparently. Let's just check if I can hear it here. Just 6925 upper sideband. Anything here? Oh, yeah. Beatles songs. Moment to arrive. Isn't that what's that song called? And I played that on guitar at some point. Blackbird? It's Blackbird, I think, is the title. What do we have? So it's pretty strong. Look at that. 6925 upper sideband. Sounds like Beatles radio or something, or Beatlemania. Scott Belcher, I don't understand the slow TV signals. Can you see those on something? Can you hear them on the radio? How do you know they are TV signals? Okay, slow scan TV is called slow scan TV because actually it's sending a picture on your screen through radio signals. Slow scan TV can be decoded using different types of software. On Windows, there's SSTV, which is nice because it's automatic. Decode what mode it is. There's Robot 36 that exists on Android. And there's different, slow scan. I know Black Cat Systems has an SSTV app for iOS also. So basically, what they do is they send out tones. And those tones with the software decodes what the image looks like. And it gives you a picture. But there's also another thing that is amateur TV signals, which is a different thing. I've never actually seen any of that here, but on the UHF range, there's some amateur signals that can be doing amateur television stuff, which is a different thing from slow scan TV. But with software and with a radio that is tuned to upper sideband, you can actually listen to what slow scan TV signals sound like. And like the International Space Station, for example, in 145800, you're in FM mode, you'll hear tones. To your ears, it only sounds like a bunch of tones. And if you use the software like MMSSTV, Robot 36, and so on, with that software, those tones are converted into an image. So the different pitch of the tones tells the software the different colors and the way that actually the image goes through, and how to reconstruct that image, basically. So you need just the software and listen to it. It's really a bunch of tones sending out an image, basically. What else do we have? Can a discount work with SATCOMs on 2 meters? What do you mean by SATCOMs? Do you mean the amateur signals? Anything that is satellite works better with a directional antenna, but satellites definitely can be received easily with a discount. The export. What's your opinion on those ATUs on eBay that have a similar form factor to the ATS-20 receiver? And are antenna tuners worthwhile for shortwave listening? Thanks. You know what? I think when I look at them, I think the ATS-20 or SI-4732 receivers, whatever they are pretty much all the same. You get one, and there's a YouTube channel. There's a guy on a YouTube that shows you how to actually get a new firmware and upgrade them to something better. And that's what I'm looking at right now on my ATS-20. I think they're all the same. I don't think there's a difference between any of them. I think they're all exactly the same thing in the basics. Antenna tuners, I mean, usually antenna tuners are mostly used for transmitting, but if you tune, it's of course, if you tune your antenna to resonate at what frequency you're listening to, yeah, there probably will be an improvement. Maybe not by much, but there could be an improvement because you are definitely resonating more at the frequency you're tuning to. Is it worth it to have an antenna tuner for listening? That's another story. I'm not sure. Some people report that they've had several S units more of a signal using an antenna tuner, which is not impossible. I mean, when you resonate with a frequency, of course it actually gets more signal in. I don't know. Maybe, I probably should get an antenna tuner and try it out here and show some examples. For the most part, most radio listeners don't have antenna tuners. I've seen some people say, well, it improves, but not enough. It's not necessarily worth it. We would have to try it out. Maybe I should get one and try it out here for sure. For sure. What else do we have? Robert Shine, Jill, a strong enough rainstorm sometimes on a disconnected antenna at the end of the cable. You can hear or see small arcs happening from the center conductor to the outer connector. Yeah, but most radios aren't, because if it's not connected at all, and I'm not, it's not even rainstorm. I mean, put the long wire in a dry wind. It's a bit like a carpet. It might actually get some static charge on it. The thing is when it's connected to a radio, most of the time that doesn't have time to build up. It kind of leaks out. It's not like when it's not connected at all, especially on the desktop, a desktop receiver connected to your wall, power grid. Usually when that happens, if there's wind, if there's something that could build a charge, it doesn't build because it always kind of leaks out all the time. Here you're talking about a antenna connector that isn't connected, so it has nowhere to go. When it builds up strong enough, it's possible. But let's face it, how many people have you heard? Okay, how many out of thunderstorms? How many people have you heard tell you the radio went deaf or stopped working because of wind or snow or rain? No one. Because when it's connected, there's that slight current that still goes through prevents a buildup. Here you're really talking about much more of a antenna that has nowhere to go. It's the connector is just there. So now there might be a buildup, and yeah, there might be a discharge because there's nowhere to go. It doesn't have anywhere to go. Hey, Prasad, nice to have you on board from India, my friend. Robert Chine, we had lightning strike that struck a couple spots in my yard, and the current was just enough for it to blow a couple of remotes for TVs in the house, and that weren't even connected. Yeah, if it's close enough, absolutely. Yeah, RGA Dakota, Blackbird. John Beckham, what about a shortwave antenna taken way up in the air with a hydrogen balloon? Well, that's a hell of an antenna. I can tell you that. Man, RCW radio. You can pick up a small carry on 6210. We have a signal on the air from Chile. A hug from South America. Yeah, it's that station, Chile Radio. It's RCI, Radio Chile International or something. I've not tried it yet, actually. I don't know if it could actually make it here. Let me just put this back up. Oh, talking with Slow Scan TV, I think they were sending some slow scan here. Did I have a? I don't have a slow scan. Let's try 6210. It's very small, but very small. Barely visible carrier. I don't think, because I did hear that there was that new station of in Chile. And also, I saw a post that apparently that 6030 not Vancouver, sorry, that 6030 kilohertz station in Alberta might be coming back up Saturday. I like that kind of ready to be guy. All your life, you were only waiting for your Texan to arrive. Yeah, that sounds great, actually. Scott Belcher. Um, Thank you, Joel. Very interesting. I'd really love to see the space station SSTV stuff. Oh yeah, and it's easy to decode. Anybody that has a basic scanner with just a rubber duck antenna, no fancy setup, you can easily listen to the space station with just a regular scanner. Record the audio of what you hear on that SSTV signal, and you know what? Play it back to a computer or a device, and you will have a decode of the picture. I can tell you that. Lloyd Armstrong, thanks for the heads up. MLA 30 plus antenna for me, amazing improvement in reception. That is cool. Even for me, it changed from having really bad reception to actually making things good enough to listen to. It's really amazing. Canadian Radio TV guy says nothing in Alberta. John Beckham, no carrier heard in Northeast Florida either. Yeah, but I know that there's that Chile station. That Chile station is there on 6210. Joseph Richard, nice to have you here from South Portland, Maine. Hope all is going well. Pretty cool. Niels Pedersen, nice to have you on board, my friend. Of course. What else do we have? Let me just check to make sure anybody says hello. We have Texan. We have David Butcher through email saying a new toy, amazing when used with my new U-loop. Broadcast band is full of distant stations. The Texan PL330, very little noise. Also, I got this radio so I could use an external antenna. It's great. Enjoying the live show again. Well, welcome, man. I'm happy to be here and hope everybody's enjoying the live show tonight. As usual. Okay. Please click the like button, says Kevin. Neil says Texan song is so nice. Oh man. William Helms, dry conditions, a static charge can build too. My dad in the Dust Bowl bailing out to California told me about that. I still remember talking about old radios when I had that Army radio from. So I was, maybe 14. I didn't know much. I decided to ground the radio because there was a ground screw of the World War II radio. I took a very long wire because I didn't know that, it had to be really short. And my brother gave me a metal golf club, and I actually buried the golf club and I put the wire net to it and brought it up to the radio, which was the World War II tube radio back in 1983-ish. And one day, while I was doing stuff, I was holding the grounding cable, and I put my hand on the tube radio, and I actually could feel a current going through. And I was like, oh man, what's that? I'm getting shocked by my grounding cable. But, let's not forget that the electric grid uses the ground often to kind of, bring back the current and when things happen. And that, of course, is probably the reason why I got kind of a weird shock there. But anyways, it's kind of fun to see all of this happening. A couple of questions I want to go through. Let's check it out tonight. So the first question is, and that's interesting, how did they discover shortwave radio or shortwave propagation? Look, thing is that imagine you're a radio pioneer and you start broadcasting. When radio started, the broadcasting and the transmitters and the electronics that we had were very, very, very low frequencies. We couldn't, you know, we didn't have tubes and transistors to like boost up everything to kilohertz to like megahertz or even, higher than that. So it all started in the long wave bands and seeing the distance of signals and so on, and then medium wave. And as electronics actually improved, we could use oscillators and go into the megahertz regions. And we started seeing that when we were at a certain range, signals were actually being picked up way, way further away. And at first, nobody understood why. Then, after some studies, it was understood that, oh, look at that. There's some layer in the atmosphere called the ionosphere that actually bounces off shortwave signals. That's pretty much how it happened. It was like, it's like by accident. It's like radar stuff. Some guy leaving a sandwich next to a transmitter antenna, and his sandwich is hot or warm when he comes back. It's like, oh, look at that. It warms things up, Yeah, a lot of accident. I mean, it's like a lot of stuff when we start. I watched a documentary about the atomic bomb and how we didn't know anything. The atomic bomb, half of the scientists thought we would put the Earth in a big fireball, and the other half was like, no, it's going to be safe. But there were so many mistakes through that you're like, yeah, you didn't know what you were doing, actually. It's like, well, this should do that, but we don't know the rest. We have no idea what the rest is going to be. Radio signals and radio propagation was like that. It's a discovery of, we start with something, and as we go higher in frequencies, because we start having the knowledge and the electronics and the possibilities, you get to a point where you're like, look at that. That range actually bounces off and gives signals to, we can actually send a signal to another country. It's pretty crazy when you think about it. Night Flight 66. Nice to have you here from Southern Illinois. Keegan, XNNDXer. Nice to have you on board, my friend. 90 Fahrenheit after the sunset. That's hot. That's one of those nights you want to spend either outside or inside in the air conditioning. Log 2112. I missed getting Navtex on 517 and 490. Speaking of long wave, I haven't heard Navtex on 518 kilohertz in a long time. Last time was by accident when I was trying out the Texan PL990X. And I heard that Navtex from Charleston. I was like, whoa, look at that. I'm getting some weather here, David, KJ4CMY says, I've heard that hams were given the useless frequencies above 1500 kilohertz who proved these frequencies propagate well. Actually, I remember reading something about that also. I remember that useless, like, let's give them that chunk of frequencies and who cares? There's nothing good there. And I do remember, and let's not forget that even today, amateur radio, as it's an experimental service. Why do amateur radios get licenses? Because the government wants to have people experimenting with radio waves. And amateur radio still today proves that experimentation of radio waves is important to, show all the possibilities of what can be done when radio propagation and with different, more than that. I mean, look at how amateur radio is bringing digital modes and stuff that are unique and very, very, look at the FT8. Such a amazing, it might be boring because I do find it boring, but you got to be amazed that in a noise where you probably hear nothing, it's still going to get and tell you, oh yeah, there was that station there. What? There was nothing there. Oh yeah, that station from Japan was there. And it's like, wow, okay. So amateur radio experimentation is extremely important still today. Still today. Neil says, yep, not fun to get power in your body. I remember when I would help my sister with a power outlet and happened to drive a screwdriver in the socket. Maybe that's why I stubbed hair after that. Oh, man. 9.566, 49 meters, all the way up to 16 meters. Very good tonight. Also, a little CB action on 11 meters. Yep, just as I began to show, actually, 11 meters was showing up with activity. Kathleen, nice to have you on board from Germany. Can't sleep. Well, it's the best place to be. How can you, David says, how can you sleep when Jill is on YouTube? Well, I'm not sure about that, but you know. Another question we're going to go through. So, question is, why does 6 megahertz, 49 meters, propagate in nighttime and not in the daytime? And why does 19 meter band, 15 megahertz, propagate in the daytime and nighttime almost never? This has to do with the way that the ionosphere is built. So remember that the ionosphere in the daytime is divided into, so the sun shines, it ionizes the ionosphere, but it divides into 2 layers. So in the daytime, you have a D layer, you have an F1, F2 layer. Some refer to as an E layer also. So the different layers, the separation of these layers, make either absorption or they either will have the signals propagate, so or reflect off them. The D layer is what makes the low frequencies pretty much zero in the daytime, except for very local signals. It's because its absorption is so high that it just doesn't propagate signals from very far away. So the signals that would be on 49 meters, 6 megahertz from Europe, for example, in a daytime path to North America would just be absorbed and they don't reach. But the higher frequency you go to, the higher it bounces off the ionosphere. And you get to a point where a frequency can go through the D layer without the absorption. So 19 meter band is an example. 15 megahertz will not be absorbed, or will be maybe slightly, but not enough to not be there. And will go hit the F layers, where there it's going to actually bounce off and go back down. Now remember, it goes up and goes down. That means it's the D layer will, in certain frequencies, have a little bit of attenuation, but when it hits, it comes back down. It has to go back and go through the D layer again, a little more attenuation. So the higher the frequency you go to, the less of that attenuation happens in the D layer at the bottom. Now, when the sun sets, these layers, these separate layers, actually will all kind of go through and become one single layer. And that single layer is not good enough to propagate very high frequencies. So 19 meter band, that signal is going to go through and just be lost into space. So you might be sending a signal to aliens on 15 megahertz if you want. Maybe aliens are listening to WWV sometimes. You know, who knows? But in the lower frequencies, it bounces off that layer. There's what we call the maximum usable frequency, where the signal is capable of being bounced off the layer and will fall down further away. When we don't think about it much, but these big antenna arrays, when shortwave broadcasters are sending signals on shortwave, they are targeting an audience most of the time. These huge curtain antennas actually send off a signal in a certain direction and at a certain angle. Because one of the things that you can do is, for example, 15 megahertz might not propagate if the antenna is sending the signal at a very, very steep angle of, let's say 70 degrees. That might not propagate back down. But sometimes by using a lower angle, it's possible that you might actually be still able to use the ionosphere to actually bounce off and actually go a very long distance for the bounce. So that is something that they actually use. Those antennas send the signal at a certain angle and a certain direction. Yes, there's lost signals around it, because that's the other question is, okay, I'm hearing Radio France and it's actually sending the signal away from me. What's happening? How come I can hear Radio France? That's the other question there. That's because an antenna system isn't perfect. So when these curtain antennas send the signal, there's still a lot of it that is sent in every direction. It's not just, there's no way to, well, there would be possibly, but it would cost so much money to do so, that you live with the fact that your antenna has a bit of loss and that some of the signals will be what we call backscatter. That's sending the signal away in the other direction from where it should go. And add to that Radio France is sending a signal with 250,000 watts or 500,000 watts. There's a lot of watts going the other way. So yeah, you might hear that signal in that direction. So it is possible. It is totally, totally possible. Okay. Other question. Somebody told me that when I listen to a signal with an echo is because I'm hearing the signal in two different paths. Is this true? Yeah, most of the time, yeah. So if you're listening to a signal and there's an echo on it, two things can happen. So sometimes it happens, and I've seen this on the BBC World Service. They're broadcasting to Asia and broadcasting to Africa on the same frequency at the same time. Usually, both signals are separate because of propagation, but propagation changes all the time. It's not always the same thing. So what happens is that usually it's fine, but one day with weird propagation conditions, you might be hearing both signals. And because they're not targeted and not coming from the same place, there might be an echo. But most of the time, what you're hearing is actually the signal from long path and short path. What's that? What's long path, short path? What does it mean? So let's say that you're listening to a radio station in, let's take the BBC from Ascension Islands in the South Atlantic Ocean. It's broadcasting to Africa, West Africa. You're hearing that. Every day you'll be hearing the same signal. And you're like, wow, this is cool. This is the BBC from, Ascension Islands transmitter site. One day you tune and there's an echo. What's wrong with the transmitter? How come I got an echo? Is it the studio? No. Once again, that frequency you're listening to and the propagation conditions of the ionosphere, what happens is that signal not only comes in direct to you, and it goes all around the world, comes back to you from the other side. And that creates an echo because even though radio signals go at the speed of light, having a signal direct and a signal from all around the world is just enough to give you a slight echo in that signal. And that means you're listening short path, which is Ascension's Island to you, long path, Ascension's Island all around the world to you at the same time. And that is something that happens quite regularly on shortwave signals. Okay. So blind picker, Rob, nice to have you here. John Beckham, I must say that if you have a shortwave receiver that receives 26,960, 227, 410, CB Citizen band channels makes for good, entertaining listening, especially with the skip levels. Absolutely. Like 2112, do you ever hear a Japanese slot in the morning there? I get it every day here on multiple frequencies. I've never heard it, actually. But then again, I'm not a morning guy, so maybe I'm just not listening at the proper time. And it would need to get up early and try that. Catalin, I have no answer from Georgia, Russia regarding my order. Did he change his email address? I did got an order confirmation because he's got the a new version from what I know, Catalin. I don't know. Catalin, could you hear Japan from the UK on 80 meters over the North Pole? It's not impossible. As with the nighttime path, yeah, it's not impossible. Would not be a summer thing because in the summer it would not go there, but in the winter, it's not impossible. Tristan says to me, it seems 9 megahertz is middle ground. It does pretty good in both day and night. There's a transition zone. That is kind of a mix of all of this. It's not shortwave isn't cut clear, and so what happens is that there's a transition zone, and even the zones that are on 19 meter band, 16 meter band, or lower frequencies isn't clear, and that transition zone also isn't clear because it changes with the seasons, with the solar activity. So there's kind of a big transition. It's a very complex thing to actually see what frequency might actually make it. So an example of that is in the winter here in Montreal, being 45.5 degrees north, I will hear in mid-afternoon a station from Europe quite easily. Same 9 megahertz. At this time of year, we're going to be in 5 days? We're going to be at the longest day of the year, which is the summer solstice in the northern hemisphere. 9 megahertz from Europe, forget it. There's nothing there. It's going to be later in the afternoon where it happens. So there's really a mix. One of the best bands to explain what middle ground is for me is 22 meter band, 13 megahertz, or even 25 meter band. But 22 meter band is one of those frequency range that is pretty amazing all around the clock, depending on the time of the year. Robert Shine, of course, I tune the Kiwi SDRs around the world online a lot to hear what it sounds like on shortwave from other parts of the world, and also to try from stations that I can't hear. It's pretty amazing. Log 2112, there ain't but about 1,600 miles between your QTH and mine, and mid your setup. I figure you might do better than me. Here's a part EF30 in a very noisy environment. So, it's very, each location is very, very unique and very different, honestly. And there's the noise level, there's the where we are and how, and one of the things that amazes me since I've been doing these live shows is seeing people that are a few hundred miles from me hearing really strong a signal I don't hear, or the other way around. I hear a strong signal, they don't. And you're like, wow. And isn't that far? You wouldn't think that when you actually, uh, you know, do shortwave. FT8 on CB, that would be nice. FT8 on CB. We're going to do some 11 meters FT8 and find a frequency where you can do it. Man, that could be nice. That would be a pretty amazing DX sometimes. Keegan says, I had an FM DX E-skip opening this morning, station from North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. Wow. Steve Miller, great explanations. Harry Alden, sometimes you can get signals on long and short paths, and the time difference sounds like an echo effect. It's exactly that, honestly. The export. Jill, I've been reading about groups that are into AMDX with pocket radios. Do you have a favorite pocket radio? Depends what you mean by pocket radio. I would tend, and this is because it has it's pretty good in as a receiver and adds a capability that can be very useful. The Sangean HDR14 portable HD radio. I mean, that doesn't have shortwave. It's an AM FM radio that I purchased just because I wanted to see what HD radio was all about. Its AM FM radio is great in sensitivity. Add the fact that in some DXing, it can sometimes lock on to an HD signal on AM and FM, of course. I would say my favorite pocket radio for AMDX probably would be the Sangean HDR14 HD radio. What else do we have? K6YYL, nice to have you on board, Kimberly from California. LC Jackson, no, I'm from Canada. I'm from Canada. John Beckham, CHU on 14670 was coming in very loud last night in Northeast Florida for a change. Wow, that's cool. Madrid DXer, Shell, any e-skip at your location? There was strong opening in Europe earlier today. When I started the show, Super Bowl Channel 6 was live. Let's try it again to see. 27025. And some were reporting some 6-meter opening. It seems to have quieted down now. Because there was some, just as I started the show, there were some guys on 27025 from the US. It seems to be pretty quiet now. Hey, Daniel from Baltimore. Nice to have you here. N3WJH. Pretty cool to have you on board. Is FT8 on CB legal? I don't know, but there's so much illegal stuff on CB that at some point you're almost like, who cares? No problem, Madrid DXer. Was happy to check out. But as the show started at 0 UT, I could hear some. There was some opening. Kathleen says Sony XDR P1 DBT as a pocket radio with DAB+. Yeah, in Europe, you guys have DAB+. RJDA Dakota, about a week ago, a station on 18900. It's not there now, though. 18900. Is there any station using that frequency range for the international broadcast band? Yes, space. Shoot out here. 18900. Okay. Oh, you had okay. You heard China. 18900 is a frequency used by Sound of Hope Taiwan. And also, it says here from 22 UT to 10 hours UT. So that means that it's going on now. CNR1 Jammer Fire Drake. So you probably heard the Chinese jammer. It's on 18900 for sure. Daniel, AMDXing was great when DJs had programming related to the area. You know, I know that there was a time in the past where DJs were like, it was so different. But honestly, AMDXing is still kind of fun, even though, yes, you'll hear 18 different frequencies with the same program. There's still some interesting stuff to do to go to and listen to. I should do that later tonight after this show ends. Honestly, Prodigy Tombeck says, "Hello, have a good streaming. Are you in Northeast Florida? No, I'm in Canada, in Montreal, Quebec, Canada." John Beckham, does Seagrain still make some sensitive pocket shortwave portables? They do have a some interesting portables, but I find that in some of the tests, and I'll need to have more, but in almost all the tests that I've done with the Seagrain CC Skywave portable, the XH data and other receivers on telescopic at least were more sensitive actually than the Seagrain radio was, which by the way is made in China by Redson. It's very important to understand that. Very important to understand that. But yeah, Seagrain makes some. They do make the CC2E, something like that, which is an amazing AM/FM portable receiver. So, which is a big radio, but it's very sensitive for DXing, for sure. I'm going to go through a few more questions here. The other question is, why is it that I'm hearing a AM station from New York on 880 at midnight, and when I turn my radio on midday, there's nothing on that frequency all around it? So that's propagation. You know, when we talk about the different frequencies and how they propagate, I was talking about how the ionosphere separates in different layers. That D layer at the bottom that I talked about that absorbs some of those frequencies in the daytime. Well, in the nighttime, when all the layers kind of go together into one big layer, that absorption that prevents that 880 kilohertz station from New York from propagating because it just absorbs through the ionosphere. Suddenly, you can kind of say that the medium wave band gets shortwave radio characteristics. That signal bounces off a layer in the ionosphere, and that's why you hear that station from far away. So medium wave at night, you can hear like 1,000 miles away because it's simply that the layers of the ionosphere are capable of bouncing off the frequencies of medium wave. So 880 kilohertz New York, same for Montreal. 880 which is WCBS, from 880 kilohertz in New York, bounces off the ionosphere into Montreal. Now, you might notice that you don't hear Europe, even though it's possible, easily. We'll say it like this because it's not impossible. And that's because the bounce is very low in the atmosphere. So that bounce doesn't go as far as a bounce from another frequency. One thing that comes to mind when I read your questions is a question that I had a long time ago, and somebody was mentioning, 10 meters. Why is 10 meters so good with low power when it propagates? It's because the higher the frequency you are that bounces off the ionosphere, the higher up in the ionosphere it actually is bouncing off. And what does that change? If you bounce a signal 45 degrees into the air to bounce off the ionosphere and come down further away, the ionosphere is several kilometers thick in different layers. So what does that do? What happens there is that the lower frequencies bounce off usually the lowest layer, and the higher frequencies will bounce off the highest layer. That difference means that that same angle of bounce gives you hundreds of kilometers more distance. So one of the things and the characteristics of shortwave signals is the less bounce you have, the more signal you'll have at the other end. Because remember, an example, Radio New Zealand, when it comes here to Montreal in 1340, it's not one bounce. It bounced off the ionosphere, came back down, bounces off somewhere in the Pacific Ocean, comes back up the ionosphere, probably has at least 2 bounces. Well, those bounces, every time there's a bounce, signal weakens. If you bounce higher up the ionosphere, you bounce further away, which means you lose less energy in the bounce, which means a higher frequency with low power might have a better chance of making it really far away and have less of a signal loss than multiple bounces. Because, an example of that, when Radio Australia would come in at 49 meter band to North America, it would probably bounce off multiple times to come here because it bounced off lower in the ionosphere. So you had multiple bounces. Of course, 100 kilowatts, it can bounce quite a lot and get still a good signal where you're going. But if you have 100 watts, the least amount of bounces to get to the same place is the best thing to do because you don't have a lot of power to give there. So there's all sorts, these things that happen that make certain bands more interesting for long distance with low power. Catalan, I would like to create a horn cover for my low noise my LNB in order to point it directly at the sky for receiving amateur satellites. QO100. Huh. I need to have I'd like to have a directional antenna for that. Robert Shine, I'm going to be on a short tour of the Dakotas. I'm planning on running HF Mobile from my QETH to there and back over about 2 weeks period. Should set up a schedule. That'd be nice. Daniel, enjoy listening to Bozo Trucking on 700 AM. Would travel and listen to Bozo Trucking. The wife hated the show. Oh man, there's a lot of very unique shows on radio. Unfortunately, it's becoming a little drab and a little too much of the same thing over time. So what else do we have? Canadian Radio TV guy was playing around with an experimental homemade loop out at the lake this weekend on my PL330 and found if disabled a ferrite on medium wave, the PL330 picks up WWV 10 megahertz on 1480 kilohertz. That's interesting. That was interesting. Probably had a really strong 10 megahertz signal and was able to probably some kind of mixing product in the radio itself. Oh, that is interesting. That is interesting. These radios are not perfect, and they do have flaws. And when you start playing around with the antennas and the different capabilities, you definitely have some weird things happening. Canadian Radio TV guys, that's going to get WWV on 1480 on the other Ethon satellite portable with the loop. Very strange. Yeah, it's the way that they are designed. There's probably some mixing product inside the radio, and the way that they're designed, that radio was able to have that kind of spurious signal there, where the others didn't. It's really in the design. Something was mixing in the electronics. 9 flight 66, voice of Greece, 9420 kilohertz, S 9 plus 30 right now, very strong. Nils Peterson, radio school at Jill is never wrong. Get a picture in my head. Jill stands at the blackboard and teaches shortwave. Oh, man. Keegan, after nearly 67 years of being a ham, my dad, W9JEF, finally got on 6 meters for the first time on Saturday the 12th. Woohoo! Hope you got excited and had some fun there. So, Cal, nice to have you on board from California, AJ6II. Catalan, slowly, the dark of night transforms to light in Germany. What is the time at your location? Here it's 4:11 a.m. Wow. Here it's 10:12 p.m. The evening just started. Madrid the Xer says, Jill, you should have been a teacher. I understand more from you than teachers I have had in the past. You know what? When I would do my tech jobs, part of my tech jobs was I had computer courses, and I remember I had a 4-week course, which was 4 weeks, 3 hours. I would explain stuff. And I had a couple of teachers in there, because I mean, if you want to know if you're good, explain stuff to a teacher. That's how you're going to know if you're good at explaining the basics. And over the 15 years I did that, pretty much every teacher I actually explained stuff told me, you are amazing at explaining to someone that has no idea about tech, how tech works. I understand how that works now because of you, and I never did before. So I think I probably have a way of explaining it. And, even in the tech stuff, how do you explain something to somebody that doesn't have a clue? The only way is to have ways to compare it with everyday activity, everyday life, everyday, normal stuff. Explain that with something that you can relate to. And that's how you explain something to somebody that has no clue of what it's all about. But I've been told that so many times. Nils Pedersen, Jill, you have so much knowledge of radio and shortwave, you should write a book. I think that would be nice. Yeah, but books, nobody buys books anymore. But yeah, I know. I don't know. I mean, that also is something that somebody told me about. John Beckham, Prentice J401, great MP3 player, but not a shortwave receiver. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's an MP3 player. Robert Shine, egg beater antenna will work great for space reception or a discount. Heck, even a dipole. No, it's surprising. If you want to have best reception, of course, a directional antenna is really the best for satellite, but pretty amazing. William Helms, I've learned from Jill. Here's why I used to have a Grunning G5. Robert Shine, what antennas do you personally use and for what purpose? Is there a go-to one? I live in a noisy environment. So for noise environment, a loop, a magnetic loop. I would not, I always talk about the MLA30 because for the price, it's amazing. But anybody that has a Walbrook, a W6LVP, or any magnetic loop in a noisy environment, I think for noise, any place that is very noisy, a magnetic loop is the way to go. If I'm on a quiet place and I want a DX, say I would go out north in the woods where there would be no noise and I want a DX, I will not bring an MLA30 or a loop. I will bring several hundred feet of wire because I know that's going to beat the loop anytime because it's quiet. So you don't need to have any special antenna to remove noise. There's just no noise there. That's pretty much what I would say. For the rest, I'll say it. Keep it simple. Just bring wire with you, and I see a lot of people saying, "Oh, well, buy that reel-in antenna or that whatever." You know what? Don't. If you want to bring your portable radio somewhere, two things you need: get yourself wire. Get yourself maybe just one. You can use wire and just put the antenna. Just put the antenna, the end of the wire that you remove the insulation on the telescopic directly. Works fine, and that's enough. A lot of people are too complicated. It's like, well, you can't put the wire on the telescopic because I was like, hey, I don't care about that, blah, blah, blah that you have to say. Okay, just put the wire on the telescopic. It works, and that's it. And who cares? Or like what I do to make it easier is I have alligator clips. So you buy, these wires with alligator clips, or you solder an alligator clip to a, reel of 50 or 100 feet of wire. You don't have to use it all, but you go out somewhere, you want to have a quick antenna, you just unroll it, put it in a tree branch, whatever you find. 10 feet, 20 feet, 50 feet, whatever is possible where you are. It's fine. It's you don't have to have a complicated life and antennas, and there's too many. I think some people are turned off sometimes because some guys say, well, you need to have that tower with this fancy antenna. It's like, no. Okay, you want to keep people in the hobby, keep it simple. And keep it simple means, for the most part, just wire. If it's too noisy, an MLA30 or something like that, that's inexpensive. I'm not going to tell somebody that has a $100 radio, buy a $400 loop. It's nonsense. You got to stop. You got to stop thinking about that. If you got a $10,000 radio, okay, well, and even then, I would say buy an MLA30. But keep it simple. Keep it simple. So here it's noisy, magnetic loop. The expedition somewhere quiet, piece of wire. Bring your 100 feet of wire with you, and just try to find a place to put it up. It's enough, and you don't need that much more. And depending, if you want a medium wave, like really rare DX, well, okay, you can bring 1,000 feet of wire and put a beverage out there in the woods. Of course, if it's quiet. Robert Prosper, giving the retreat in world shortwave radio, is anyone sniffing around the unused bandwidth, hoping it gets reallocated to other purposes? You know what? I don't think so, for a very simple reason. There's a lot of government experiments going on, way more than we think. We think shortwave is, oh well, we think shortwave is dead and is not. Yeah, well, it's used for other purposes right now. A lot of radars, over the horizon radars, a lot of stuff that are very surprising coming out of government agencies. So I would tell you that it's not going to be reallocated because there's a lot of governments using it for different things. And as long as we keep it like this, nobody's going to question why shortwave is this or that, or why that frequency range has not been sold. And anyways, you can't sell it for anything. Higher frequency has been sold, which I still don't understand because radio frequencies are not tangible things and should not have been sold, but it's governments want to make money. Shortwave cannot be sold. Imagine one country selling the HF spectrum, company making tons of things with digital stuff, making noise everywhere, interferes with all the rest of the world. You can't. A signal on shortwave propagates so far away. It'll interfere with another country's transmissions. So there's no reallocation possibilities of shortwave, I don't think. But the governments are actually finding a lot of unusual ways of using HF spectrum right now. So maybe they wanted to keep quiet on that because there's other things coming. Matt Reader DXer, what I find is that some people explain things that are not difficult, but they make it sound complicated to make them feel clever. Yeah. But sometimes it's not necessarily, because that is true. It absolutely does happen that they try to make it feel more complicated to feel clever. But I think also there's a lot of people that are incapable of explaining it in a simple way. Their brains are just wired like that. Catalan, well, then, Jill, would be nice to explain the binary, hexadecimal, and ASCII system. You know what? I did it with a nephew of mine. He was having a hard time in college learning about how to make the transitions from decimal, hexadecimal, and so on in binary. And when I went to electronics school, the teacher I had was really good. He gave me a very simple rule of how to transition from one to the other. And I never forgot it because it was so simple and so logical in my head. So when my nephew said, man, I can't figure out this thing, I said, look, I'm going to show you a trick. Here's how to convert decimal to hexadecimal. Here's how to convert, decimal or hexadecimal into binary. And I mean, I showed him like 2 or 3 times in a row. It was like, this is magical. You just made me understand how to transition from one to the other in such an easy way that I never got. He says, why is my teacher not explaining it that way? I said, well, he's got his own way, Hey, Paul, take care, my friend. Good night. Montreal's up 2-0. Oh, oh, man. Niels Pedersen, Bucks Jelly. Oh, yes, I buy, but Fox with a great fur. Catalan says, it is a small MW30 is a small active E field with great portability. Yeah. Daniel's using a 20-meter dipole for shortwave. If it's not noisy, it's perfect. It's really that. Oh, yeah, guys. Coming up soon, the ARRL Field Day coming up in the last weekend of June. You got to remember that, guys. It's always fun. John Beckham, all you need is a K2 T1 compact wheel antenna. It works, whatever works, and that's the important thing. Whatever works. Hey, Yogi, nice to have you on board. Good morning, my friend. Night Flight 66, I wish with everything that's still on shortwave, the government using some of it, they would start cracking down on this stuff and make local noise. But that's wishful thinking. Yeah. A lot of the noise we have is because governments didn't enforce the rules that the electronics devices we got over time needed to be quiet. And we got tons of things from China with really cheap electronics and the power supply stuff that would be like, it was just, we lost the war here. And now the FCC or whatever government body doesn't care anymore. It's like, call the FCC or whatever and say, hey, my ham radio gear has interference because of some neighbor, or what do you want him to do? They're going to confiscate the neighbor's TV and say, hey, you can't use it anymore. They're just going to say, yeah, that's the way it is. And that has a lot to do with the fact that the electronics interference, the rules were so relaxed that nobody just looked at it anymore. And all the stuff started being noisy. And you know what? Come on. What do you want to do? Somebody, your neighbor's making noise with its plasma TV. What? Do you think they're going to care? Hey, you're making noise on my AM radio gear or shortwave receiver. He's going to laugh at your face. We're at that part where the only thing we can do is mitigate with the antennas we use and mitigate with, unfortunately, sometimes having to listen to shortwave somewhere else. I remember a couple of, maybe a year ago, some hams were talking of the amateur bands. I mean, these guys were like hams for like 30 years, 40 years. And they were actually talking about, they started, first of all, testing different amateur bands and asking everybody, what's your noise level in each band? And then they started talking, well, when I started, the 80 meter band had S4 noise level. And now today it's S9. And that's the standard I have. And everybody was talking to different bands. And everybody was like, yep, noise is really amazing today compared to when we started a long time ago in our hobby. There's nothing we can do about it. In fighting it, you can't fight it. The only way is to mitigate it in either an antenna or, it's sad, but, when I see somebody here in the channel tell me, well, I bought a radio, I hear nothing. I feel bad because I'm thinking, well, the guy might have bought it because he sees me receiving a lot of signals and he thought it'd be the same, and it's not. And unfortunately, there truly is some people in this hobby that if they want to do the hobby, they absolutely and totally need to listen to radio somewhere else from their homes. And that's sad because I remember when I was a teen in shortwave, I could hear the world from my living room. That was cool. You're lazy boy, a portable radio and hearing Radio Australia like this. Of course it's cool. For most people today, let's use Radio New Zealand as an example because Australia's gone. Yeah, that's not the way it is. It's not, oh, I got a portable in my living room and I'm listening to Radio New Zealand tonight. Nope. It's more complicated than that. And that is sad because we have to admit, listening to shortwave from our cozy little spot in our home is what we wish we could do. Then we get, no, I got to go in the middle of nowhere with a portable radio to listen to something or do something. It's sad when you think about it. Catalyst says, plan on the video explaining hex binary and also the DB rule. William Moser. I was on the AM bands, on the lower part of the bands, and I heard beacons. How is that on AM bands? I'm confused. What frequency range exactly were you on? Because if you were on the what's you call the lower part of the bands? Because if you live near non-directional beacons, it's not impossible that a radio could hear some beacons there, like second harmonic stuff like that. The export. Have you ever been to Jardin Nelson in Old Montreal? Absolutely. I visit that restaurant every time I go to Montreal, hoping they open the border and maybe make a trip this summer. Absolutely. Great food. I've been there many times. Jardin Nelson. It's a nice place. Absolutely. Yogi, tuning to Radio Thailand 15590. Pretty cool. Tarek, nice to have you on board. Good morning in Cairo, Egypt. What time is it there? Out of curiosity, was that 6 a.m.? Welcome aboard, my friend. I like 2112. I'm getting good signals tonight because I got a good bounce. Niels, yes, your old fox turns 52 on Monday and first COVID vaccination. Cool. Happy birthday in advance, my friend. We're the same age anyways. We have actually the possibility of, so I got my first vaccination, my first shot on April 29th. My second shot right now is due August 19th, which is far away. But because things are going really fast, you can go online and try to push it like closer. So I've been doing that right now. I've not been successful, but eventually I'm hoping to get a shot early July maybe or something like that to have my second shot. Now it seems like the government is saying that maybe I should have a different shot for my second shot. So I'm going to check into that. Apparently I'll have better coverage, which is a brand new rule from today. So I don't know where they got that information, but pretty cool. Night Flight 66. Has there been a time or reason you thought about giving up on shortwave listening? Oh, man. The biggest hit that I had for shortwave was when I moved here. So I've been here this in July. It'll be 21 years that I'm living here. 21 years. Before I moved here, everywhere I lived was quiet. I could listen to signals. I could listen to weak signals from different areas, and it was crazy. I moved here not checking anything because you don't think about that. Plugged my Kenwood 5000 because that's what I was using back in 2000. And boy, the noise floor was so high. I would say at that time I took a break from shortwave. I took a break because it was so noisy that it kind of made me bitter, and I was like, yeah, so shortwave's gone. That's not my future anymore. And of course you look at the fact that there were so many stations slowly going away. But I don't know why. There's something in me that no, you can't give up, and you can't stop. Even if it's rough, you got to do something. And of course, doing what I'm doing here in the shortwave channel, um, I can't quit now because I'm promoting it. I'm pushing everybody to it. I'm trying to lift the spirits of everybody that thinks everything's dead. And I'm like, no, I got to prove that it's not dead. But, I'll admit there are days I turn on the radio and I'm like, yeah, you're promoting all of this, and what are you hearing right now, except for the religious broadcasters from the US? It happens from time to time that I'll have that little, second thinking of, yeah. But you know what? There's always that little signal that will pop up out of nowhere that's going to just bring me back into that. Oh, this is so cool. I'm hearing that station. I'm hearing that. I'm hearing a ham station from Russia. I'm hearing this utility signal from Argentina. It's like, there's a pirate station. And it keeps me alive. It's like, no, there's stuff out there. But shortwave listening in 2021 is different. You got to adapt to a variety of things you can listen to. Maybe not focus anymore on just international broadcasting. And that's why I'm still alive on shortwave, because I don't focus just on the aspect of international broadcast. I focus on the general activity of the HF bands, including amateur, utilities, and all of that, and unusual stuff that could pop up anywhere, and pirate stations, and number stations, and it that keeps me alive because there's stuff there. 4:30 a.m. Okay, you're an early riser, Tarek. Carl de Simone, nice to have you here from South Carolina. Yep, the Radio Canada, Radio RAC, Radio Amateurs of Canada, Canada Day contest also on July 1st. Absolutely. Yes, it is. Absolutely. Canadian Radio TV Guide. It is always on July 1st. So the RAC Canada Day contest is always there. So it's going to be there once again this year on July 1st. Absolutely. Okay, but remember, William Moser, that between 500, the highest frequency a beacon is, and look at that, guys. For some reason, I've got a frequency list of beacons right here. So the highest frequency beacons exist are, let me check that out here. .535 kilohertz. So that means that you, from 500 to 535, you might hear some beacons there. There are some that still exists. Passe une belle fin de soirée, Christian Marcoux. À la prochaine. No, don't worry. The export, I will not give up. I'm actually hyped, and I'm able to actually hype myself too. Daniel, you may lose interest for radio for a while, but you return. Ham radioactive for over 20 years. Hey, look, I think it's normal. Imagine me. I'm doing this, which means I have to be hyped up on shortwave all the time. But honestly, there will be a day that, for example, I'll be doing stuff on a Monday, and I was like, you know what, today no radio. I'm not doing radio today. I don't want to listen to the radio. I don't want to look at the radio. Today is no radio day. Because if you do it every day and you do it all the time, it may be not a good idea because you will actually eventually like burn out, basically. And over the, 40 years next year of radio listening, I've been, I've never been years without radio, but I've been months without radio. I will tell you there were times when easily 5 or 6 months passed without me turning on a radio. And then I turn it on, but because I haven't been doing it for such a long time, it feels good again. So these are things that I, I think it's normal. We can't always be hyped up. It's like people here, coming and going. It's like, well, I was here at the beginning, and eventually I stopped, listening, but I'm back after a year. It's normal. It's normal to be on and off in a hobby. Like, it's normal to be on and off with different things we do in our lives, because that's the way we keep interest sometimes. If we do it too intense, you know what's going to happen? You're just going to leave and never come back. And that's not something you want, I'm not going to, give up on shortwave and give up on this. You have to think about one thing that what I do here is that I've been doing this since 2012 live. And one of the things that you see is that since 2012, I did see some decline of shortwave. It would be, I can't pretend that there was not a decline of shortwave broadcasters within that 8-year, 9-year period. But I still want to try to keep the hype up. And how do I do it? Well, maybe you've noticed, I have some international broadcasts, but I do a lot of, here's a pirate, here's a utility, here's a number station, here's that weird signal, I don't know where it comes from. Here's some, Mars signal from the U.S. Air Force. Here's some, U.S. Civil, civil patrol stuff, and so on. There's tons of signals out there. The thing is, it is different today, and you got to continue and check it out. That's for sure. Bad Reader DXer says also stop shortwave JXing during, even though I started in the 80s. Reason was I moved to a noisy area in the mid 90s. We started when I moved to a quieter area in the mid 2000s when stations were leaving shortwave. And you got to sometimes adapt your listening and maybe go somewhere else. Larry Cordy, nice to have you here from New York. Yogi, Radio Thailand's Japanese will close after 30 June. If you need QSL. Really? They're stopping their Japanese language? Oh, that's sad. RJDA Dakota, hearing something on 6900 USB. Carl de Simone bought a Texan PL990. CY on R108. CCEP Pro. Wife wishes didn't find you. Oh, man. I don't know how many wives might be mad at me over the distance. It's like, well, since you're watching that guy from Canada, we're spending all our money on radios. That's stupid. Oh, God. Log 2112 EAM on 8992 11175 and 6712. Can you read a TV guy? When I was younger, I had other hobbies with music and art, but it's never stuck to me like radio. The radio TV part of me is never going away till I die. Yeah. The export, Jill, what hobbies do you have? So there's radio, of course. You guys know that. If I remove radio, of course, technology, computers is something I really like. I have the old Amiga 500, Atari 1040 ST, Counter 128. I dabble in computers. I got Windows 11 here that's leaked. I'm a tech enthusiast, so that's another hobby, and of course, I have a channel on YouTube that goes with that also. Apart from that, I would say that I'm a big fan of music. I listen to music all the time. I could not even imagine a life without music personally. So that's another part of me, listening to a lot of music from anywhere from the old stuff from the 50s. I'm more of a pop rock guy, but any style of music actually is interesting to me. I got a Fender Stratocaster guitar with a Marshall amp. I played guitar for many years. I haven't touched my guitar a lot lately. I probably should do more. And I just enjoy, nature, life, and camping and stuff like that. Keegan, my dad, W9JEF, credits me for him getting on 6 meters. It was my reception of a distance FM station that gave him the idea to check out 6 meters. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. The son telling the dad, hey, you should try that band. That is great. Tag, WRNO 7505, booming in. WRMI 7780, also good. Cool. Getting many North American stations there. Kamaxi 1976, nice to have you here. Daniel, yeah, more to shortwave than just the broadcast bands. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, wow, Tarek's got Radio New Zealand on 13840. Let's try it out here. 13840. Radio New Zealand. How is it coming in here? Not too bad. Radio New Zealand. 13840. 13840. Radio New Zealand making it tonight. Niels Pedersen, Jill, no, never shortwave, and Jill, wonderful new radio devices as Texan H501X makes me feel mighty real. Sylvester, a little hard love, just a hug. Oh, man. Makes me feel mighty real, the Texan H501X. John Beckham, what I remember back around in the late 60s when I first got into shorter listing is the station ID songs 5 minutes before they would sign on. Yeah, those interval signals. There's so much of them. So much of them. Oh, man. Yogi says, I have an idea the other day. Use a musical instrument to calibrate zero beat. Yep. And you guys know that you can actually calibrate your musical instruments with WWV, because at the what is it, the second minute, it has the 440 hertz frequency. The expert says, Joe, is your following on your other channels as crazy and loyal as your official? It's different, but yes, it is. I mean, right now, just to give you an idea, here on the shortwave channel, I get roughly 200,000 views a month. On my Windows channel, I get close to 1 million a month. And I mean, I've got a basic following of people that are waiting for me to post every little detail of something new I hear about Windows or of technology. So it's like, yeah, but it's different feel. It's not like here there's more live interaction. Over there it's more of tech enthusiasts following the guy that's going to talk about the latest thing that's going to happen every 5 minutes. If I hear something or I read something, it's just like, okay, I posted yesterday Windows 11 leak, and after like 2 hours, I had 10,000 views on my video. I was like, whoa. It's like, okay, I got people that really, really want to see the latest stuff all the time. So it's a different field, though. It's not a field that is as good as and personal as what I have here, because here it's personal. I talk to you guys all the time. On that channel, it's more of it's a feel of you got guys that are just like, wow. One guy yesterday said, wow, Gilles is the CNN of computer stuff. It's like there's something new, and 2 minutes later, he's got a video about it. And that's the feel there. People enjoy what I do, and the tech enthusiasts follow me for what I have to say about it. But it's not personal like here. It is. Here is much more one-to-one with you guys, like if you were in the same room with me, basically. So, it's a different thing. AU Rabbit. What's a good SDR for shortwave? Well, if you have only one to buy, get yourself an SDR Play RSP1A. You're not going wrong, and you're going to get a great one from the start and have fun. No going crazy about drivers and weird stuff. Yeah, Keegan, that's the it's 2 minutes past the hour, I think, right? Or it's maybe 1 minute, but they got that 4. Okay, with WWVH, yeah, has got it there, and WWV has got it at 2 minutes past the hour. It's a 440 hertz tone. The expert says, I'm the CNN of computer, but I'm the BBC of DX radio. I like that. Oh, man. John Beckham, Radio New Zealand 13840 is coming in around east coast of Florida. Cool. It's one of those nice signals in the summertime. 13840 is going to be my summer radio listening for sure at night. It's a lot of fun to do that. So, hey, guys, it's getting almost to 11 p.m. here. I'm a little tired of my day. I had a rough day today. I want to thank you all for being here as usual. And we're going to be back on Saturday with more radio stuff. Hope that you enjoyed the show tonight. And that's at 4 p.m. Eastern. That's 20 hours Universal Time. And hope that you enjoyed the show. Jazz Tank says the dreaded, hey, guys. So, really? BBC, Tarek? BBC has been starting to send QSL cards again? Oh, that's interesting. I'm going to have to try that. That's for sure. That's for sure. Huh. Interesting. So thanks, guys, for being such great fans. It's always a great pleasure to be here. And it's always fun to talk about radio, for sure. So hope that you enjoyed the night, enjoyed the show. And we're going to be back Saturday, 20 hours Universal Time, talk about radio again. Let me just make sure that I haven't missed anything in the email, just out of curiosity. But if everything's all right, nope, nothing else. So thanks, guys, for being great fans. Thanks for making this a fun part of of my life, honestly. Because, I mean, without you guys, I'd be talking to myself. Not it's not interesting, but I'd rather talk to people. So stay safe, people. Stay safe, my friends, from all over the world. Such a nice gathering from Europe, from the Nordic countries, from the United States, from Canada, Hawaii, Asia, Japan, Australia. I mean, India, sometimes Pakistan. I mean, how great can it be to have a following of people from all over the world like that? It's just fantastic. Stay safe. Okay. Love you all.